Okay, so I got a blue pen, and I am going to start tracing this down, dark side down onto the Bristol paper, dull side up. Your tracing paper right on top. I'm going to take my ruler, and you don't have to go so hard, but definitely have a little bit of pressure. And you see how you can see that blue line? Now watch. There it comes out onto the Bristol paper, through the tracing paper. So I would just want to continue that. And I want to get down all my basic shapes. Now you see how I ran out of graphite paper? You can see through there. I want to come down here, but I have no graphite paper there. So all you do is you lift your tracing, take your graphite paper, and move it down to the area you want to transfer, making sure that the tracing paper stays flat. You could even cut off a little bit of the border if you want to make sure it stays flat. And you could tape your tracing paper on the top and the bottom just to make sure it stays securely down. Then what you would do is you would take your graphite paper, graphite side down, and just slide it in. Okay? So then you would just continue transferring down those lines you made. I'm just going to do one area, otherwise we'll be here all day watching this video. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up this area here. I'll do a little of this area here just to show you how to go back and use this ruler. Okay, you want to mimic that curve you made on your tracing paper again. So then you want to take your pen and go along that edge and trace it down. Okay, so let's just say I traced everything down. I take off my tracing paper, so I'll take off the tape. This can be reused. Don't throw this away. I'll have a bucket where you can put those in. Those used pieces of transfer paper. Okay? And you want to carefully take your tape off your tracing. Okay, so my area is transferred down. You're going to transfer the whole design down. The whole design down. What you designed on the tracing paper, you're going to transfer that whole thing down before you take off the tracing paper. I'm just taking this off now so that this video is a little bit shorter. Okay, so get all your tape and everything out of the way. Then you want to take a thick Sharpie and a thin Sharpie, thick and thin. And then you just want to create your areas. So let's see. I'm going to make all my straight lines on this section of my design thin Sharpie. Okay. Then I'm going to take the thicker Sharpie. I'm going to find one with a point, if that's possible. Yeah, that's a nice point, see? Okay, so now I'm going to make all these curvy lines with thick Sharpie, tracing over what I transferred down with transfer paper. If you go off what you transferred a little bit, like see how I didn't go over my line, that's fine. No one's gonna know except you, because then after you're all done, you can take your eraser and you can erase those lines. Okay, so I have my thick Sharpie here, and this is a little boring, right? It's a little sparse right there. So I'm gonna, let's see, add some more lines here, and maybe I want to make that a solid line, solid area, a thick solid area. And see how nice it is when you come off the edge? You don't have to get stuck right on the end of your line there. And just come off and not worry about it, because you're going to cut off that border later on. Alright, so okay, so I have that area. And I still think it's a little boring. So I'm going to take the thin Sharpie and I am going to cut through these white areas with thin Sharpie. I can even do it here. That's nice. Maybe I want to even go further and do some vertical curvy lines through that area. That is very cool. Now that is very cool. It kind of looks like a fishnet, right? So I love that. So I am going to do the same on this side here. So I'm going to make my areas line up somewhat. My thicker lines line up somewhat. And I'm going to fill those in. Being careful to stay within the lines, color within the lines, remember? When you were in kindergarten, you learned to color within the lines, or maybe you didn't. But try and stay within the lines. Alright. You don't need to press very hard with a Sharpie. You'll actually ruin the point. It's better to use the side of the Sharpie when you're coloring, and only when you need to get into little corners use the tip. Alright, I'm actually going to add something in here because I think this area has too much negative space. There's nothing in that area, which makes it negative space. And the filled up area is called the positive space. More vocabulary you're learning. See? So aren't you so happy you watched this video? Come on now. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side. I'm just cracking myself up with these videos. Alright. I'm going to fill that in. This looks very cool. Doesn't that look cool? That looks cool. So I am just going to continue my whole design that way. I'm going to fill in these two areas. Maybe I want to do something different. Maybe I want to do more thin lines versus more thick lines. Maybe I want to do straight lines, dotted lines, dashed lines. However you want to design your composition so that the whole 9 by 12 paper is filled with different types of lines, go for it. Okay, I'll see you in class.